Russian air defenses that once dominated the battlefield are being picked apart with surgical precision, not by lone wolf pilots, but by something entirely new. The Ukrainian F-16 pilots fighting to hold back 50,000 Russian troops in Sumy Oblast aren't fighting alone anymore. More and more, the Air Force's jets fight as teams, Euromaidan Press reports. As the Ukrainian Air Force takes delivery of up to 85 Lockheed Martin F-16s from a Danish-Dutch-Norwegian consortium, as well as a dozen or more Dassault Mirage 2000 fighters from France, the Flying Branches fleet is getting much more diverse. The upgraded Western types complement a pre-war fleet that had around 125 Sukhoi Su-24 bombers, Su-25 attack jets, Su-27s, and Mikoyan MiG-29 fighters. But one of the most important updates to Kiev's air arm isn't technological, it's procedural. Ukrainian pilots now fly in complex packages, where each plane supports the other planes in the same formation. This specialization, and teamwork, first became possible as U.S. contractors helped Ukrainian airmen modify their Su-27s and MiG-29s to fire American-made AGM-88 high-speed anti-radiation missiles, which home in on enemy radar signals from as far away as 148 kilometers. Ukraine's ex-Soviet jets lack internal radar jamming equipment, so they need help fighting their way through dense Russian defenses. Sukhois and MiGs armed with HARMs can escort bomb-laden Sukhois and MiGs to their targets, Euromaidan Press says. The arrival of the first F-16s back in August, and the first Mirage 2000s in February, allowed even more complex strike packages. Unlike the Sukhois and MiGs, the F-16s and Mirage 2000s do have internal radar jammers. Sometimes when we arrive, there are already F-16s waiting there, or sometimes Mirages, a Ukrainian fighter pilot said in an official video from March. The F-16s and Mirages either cover the whole package that is sent there to strike our enemies, or also strike themselves, the pilot said. So while some F-16s are flying attack sorties over Sumy with American-made precision glide bombs, others may be flying jamming missions to protect the attackers, while other Ukrainian fighters, perhaps Su-27s, target the Russian air defenses that the F-16s and Mirages can't jam, Euromaidan Press says. These complex fighter packages still don't risk striking very deep inside Russia, where the air defenses might be prohibitively dense. Currently, we can only strike at tactical depth, the pilot in the March interview conceded. That means tens of kilometers rather than hundreds of kilometers. Experts say Operation Spider's Web has rattled Putin's inner circle but has not undermined Russia's military goals. At the same time, the Kremlin will continue to launch missile strikes on Ukraine, since even before the June 1st emergency, Russia did not use many aircraft for this purpose. However, a deep raid into the rear of the Russian aerospace forces is a strong blow to the Kremlin. All this time, Moscow was confident that aircraft like the Tu-95 and Tu-22 were less vulnerable than Putin's ground forces, Bloomberg reports. Officials close to the Kremlin confirmed the destruction of at least 10 aircraft. And one Western official said that the Russian aerospace forces lost 7 Tu-95 and 4 Tu-22 aircraft. The EU said that the special Operation Web raised the fighting spirit of Ukrainians. The White House said that it knew nothing about the operation and wanted the war to stop. The Kremlin media has said virtually nothing about the SBU drone attack on Russian airfields. Moreover, those who did say something tried to downplay the consequences of the Ukrainian attack. The SBU stated that 41 Russian aerospace forces aircraft were hit, including Tu-160 and A-50. The Special Operation Web has caused a lot of criticism in the Russian Federation regarding the special services and the effectiveness of air defense systems. In a statement, Russia's defense ministry confirmed that Ukraine had launched drone attacks against 5 airfields, including one in the Amur region, which is 5,600 kilometers from the border with Ukraine. Russia said 3 of the attacks were repelled, but that several aircraft on 2 bases caught fire. The airstrips were at the Olynya Air Base, which is above the Arctic Circle, and the Belia Base in Siberia, which lies more than 4,000 kilometers from Ukraine. We expect in a day or two to have higher resolution satellite imagery of those bases, said Jakub Janowski, who is based in Prague and an administrator of the website Oryx, which tracks Ukrainian and Russian military equipment losses. The drone attacks won't completely stop Russia from launching more missile attacks, but Russia will have to be way more careful and move additional air defenses to the rear, Janowski said. It would be an additional strain on their already stretched resources. While Ukrainian drones were destroying strategic aviation and experts were talking about a Russian Pearl Harbor, 72-year-old Putin disappeared. No appeal, no orders, not even words, only deathly silence as a symbol of weakness, observers say. The Moscow Times writes about this. The most high-profile attack by Ukraine in the entire war. According to OSINT analysts, at least 13 strategic bombers were destroyed at bases in the Murmansk, Irkutsk, Ryazan and Ivanovo regions. According to Ukrainian data, up to 40 aircraft were damaged or destroyed, which could be a third of Russia's entire nuclear aircraft fleet. The world waited for a reaction, but Putin disappeared. Saturday, bridges collapsed in Bryansk and Kursk regions, 7 dead, hundreds injured. Sunday, attack on key strategic aviation bases. Monday, Putin congratulates on the Baikonur anniversary. Not a word about the tragedies, not a hint about what is happening. The 72-year-old president, who recently threatened the world with unparalleled responses, is now hiding behind the press service. Against the backdrop of Zelensky's decisive appeals, who instantly reacts to even the slightest events, Putin's behavior looks comical and cowardly. Even Medvedev, known for his nuclear threats on Telegram, has fallen silent. The State Duma is in a stupor. The Defense Ministry limited itself to one phrase about aircraft fire. Even the head of the delegation at the negotiations with Ukraine, Vladimir Medinsky, instead of assessing the situation, said that he was in a good mood after arriving in Istanbul. According to Phillips O'Brien, a professor of strategic studies at the Times, it is the most remarkable and successful operation of the Ukrainian armed forces in the entire war. He calls it a stunning blow to Russia's nuclear triad, the consequences of which the Kremlin has yet to comprehend. Z channels are in a panic. The destroyed Tu-95 and Tu-160 are no longer produced, it is impossible to restore them. According to SIPRI, strategic aviation accounts for 580 nuclear warheads out of 2,673, almost a quarter of the entire nuclear arsenal of the Russian Federation. Experts believe that if a similar catastrophe had happened in any other nuclear power, its leader would have come out to the people, addressed them, explained, and reassured them. But Putin, an aging dictator of retirement age, chose to disappear from public view as if the blow had never happened. The funniest or most pathetic thing is the reaction of federal TV channels. In their evening news broadcasts, Channel 1 and Russia 1 devoted less than 40 seconds to the largest drone attack on strategic aviation. They simply read out a dry report from the Ministry of Defense and immediately moved on to the holidays and the weather. It feels as if the Kremlin hopes that if it keeps loud and long silent, the attack will be forgotten on its own. Russia loses again and again, pretends that nothing happened.